Number 25, Natchez State Park Lakes in Tennessee, a combined 825 acres. For those who love to bank fish or tow a kayak or canoe to the water's edge, this one's for you. 4 lakes are nestled within the confines of this state park: Cub Lake, Pine Oak Lake, Maple Creek Lake, and Browns Creek Lake. 2 are managed by the park and 2 are managed by Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency. According to the TWRA, some of the best bass fishing in the state can be found here if you're willing to go without a combustible engine. Browns Creek Lake does have a slot limit and is managed for trophies, with double-digit bass landed on occasion. Number 24, Chickamauga Lake, Tennessee, 36,240 acres. This storied fishery almost did not make the cut. If you look at winning weights, though, it's hard to ignore that the Chick still has world-class stock of giant bass swimming around. The suckers simply don't like to bite as often as they used to. Regardless, it took 24-1 to win an event here in February, but the winner caught only 5 fish all day. The 2-day Bassmaster Kayak Series Championship was held here in March, and the winner measured 180 inches of bass, 18-inch average for the win. Number 23, Withlacoochee River in Lake Rouseau, Florida, 20-mile radius of Dillon. This west central Florida bass haven flies under the radar. 57 bass over 8 pounds have been registered from here this year, with a 13-14 topping the list. The lake covers 3,657 acres, and the river stretches a total of 157 miles. A February Extreme Bass Series event was won here with 24.03, but it typically takes a little over 20 pounds to earn the top spot. Still, fishing the river takes you back to old Florida, and don't be surprised if a manatee slides by your boat while you're flipping the grass. Number 22, Ross Barnett Reservoir in Mississippi, 33,000 acres. When most people consider bass fishing in the Magnolia State, this is the lake they think of, and for good reason. A Weekend Warrior Bass Club event held here in March took 24.28 pounds to win. Big bass tipped the scales at 8.95 pounds, and these aren't pros piling up this kind of weight. Of course, most events like the Catch a Dream Foundation Bass Classic held in May are won with around 18 pounds. Number 21, Lake Istapaka in Florida, 26,762 acres. The Extreme Bass Series has held 4 events this year on this storied Florida fishery. A good Istapaka is better than a lot of fisheries in the nation. If you take the average winning weight of these events, you are looking at over 20 pounds to collect a first place check. Plus 30 bass from here earned Florida trophy catch status in the past 12 months, with a 10-12 leading the pack. Number 20, Lake Lanier, Georgia, 38,000 acres. This may be the best spotted bass lake in the country. It took over 20 pounds to win a Fishers of Men event here in March, with a 5.59 bass taking big fish honors. 3 other spots in that derby topped the 4-pound mark. Look back to a January derby held by this group, and it took more to claim the top spot, 22.48 pounds. When you tussle with a 5-pound spotted bass, you never want to quit looking for 5-pound spotted bass. And this lake is your huckleberry. Number 19, Lake Hartwell, South Carolina, 56,000 acres. This is a big freaking lake, and it is simply full of fish. Now don't go looking for a personal best unless that PB is less than 6 pounds. If you enjoy catching 4-pound class bass all day long, this is the spot for you. A great example is a BASS Nation team event held here in March. All 17 teams caught their limits. 10 fish nearing 5 pounds were individually weighed for lunker rights, with a 6.57 taking the honors. Number 18, Dale Hollow Lake in Tennessee and Kentucky, 27,700 acres. For a lake known for producing world record smallmouth, largemouth seem to have taken center stage here. The Dale Hollow Bass Club Classic was won with almost 25 pounds, and every fish in the limit was green. Smallmouth still grow big in these waters, but are a little tougher to find these days. Spotted bass are also here. This lake is one of the best in the nation to offer anglers a lunker opportunity for all three species of bass. Number 17. Santee Cooper Lakes, South Carolina. 110,000 acres and 60,000 acres. These sister lakes are well renowned locally for their quality of fish. It's not always easy to get a limit from the tournaments we looked at. The majority of the field did not catch 5 bass each day they fished, including second place finishers. That said, one winner had almost 97 pounds, and there were multiple limits weighed in that topped 26 pounds. So this year, don't go to Santee for a lot of bites. When you get one, hang on. Number 16. Lake Panasoffkee, Florida, 4,460 acres. This fish management area lake grabbed our attention when we noticed that 37 trophy catch lunkers, 12 of which were over 10 pounds, were caught here. The biggest registered in the past 12 months was a 12-14. There's not a lot of tournament data out there on this fishery, but an Extreme Bass Series event held in June 2022 took 25.40 pounds to win, with the top 5 teams weighing in more than 20 pounds. And 8.20 took big bass honors. Number 15. Pickwick Lake, Alabama, Mississippi, and Tennessee. 43,100 acres. This lake borders on 3 states and is one of the best fisheries in the country for the 3 major species of bass. The smallmouth here get very big. You can catch one over 6 pounds if you fish long enough. The largemouth that top 10 pounds get caught just about as often. You may not find a spotted bass over 5 pounds here, but it will be knocking on the door. As for big tournament limits, 3 passed the 24-pound mark at the National Professional Fishing League event held here in March. Number 14. Roanoke Rapids Lake, North Carolina. 4,600 acres. This little lake continues to produce not only big limits of largemouth, but giant individual fish as well. Looking at some events, it seems to take an average of 23 pounds to win here. That was the case in March when 23.30 won, including an 8.56 big bass. And an April Derby required almost 21 pounds to take home the trophy. Since the lake is fairly small, you should be able to dial in a pattern quickly. Number 13. Lake Placid, Florida. 3,320 acres. This small spring-fed lake just a few miles southwest of Lake Estapoga is not your normal Florida fishery. The average depth here is 27 feet, with the deepest hole reaching 57 feet deep. A recent event here took 23 pounds to win, with the top 10 all catching more than 18 pounds. Take a quick look at data from Florida's trophy catch program and you can see how impressive the fishery truly is. In the past 12 months, 43 bass over 8 pounds have been caught here, with a 12-1 leading that race. Number 12. High Rock Lake, North Carolina. 15,180 acres. If you want to get bit, cast here. That should be the mantra for this North Carolina fishery. Looking at the results from tournaments this past year, seldom do you find a competitor who did not fill his limit. Now those limits may hover in the 15-pound range, but who can complain about an abundance of 3-pounders? Big ones are here though. A March event was won with 27.84 pounds, including a 9.89 big fish. Number 11. Lake Seminole, Georgia and Florida. 37,500 acres. This old girl can be finicky, but when she decides to fire, the results are exceptional. In the February Elite event held here, a pro won with a 4-day total of 85-2, which includes a day 2 limit of 26-1. Tyler Rivet found 5 bass on day 3 that went 25-11, and Greg Hackney brought 24/7 to the scales on the second day. Still, the best in the biz had to average only 16 pounds per day to make the top 10. So head to this lake knowing you could catch the 5 biggest bass of your life. But the Seminole winds need to blow a little luck your way.
Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're liking what you're seeing.
Number 10, Falls Lake, North Carolina. 12,410 acres. This News River fishery is always touted as one of the best in the state by the North Carolina Department of Natural Resources. Results from a team event held in May support their claims. First was captured with 24.52 pounds, which included the big fish of the event, 8.16 pounds. Largemouth have to be 14 inches to keep, but there are hordes of them under, so getting bit is not a problem. Beyond the exceptional bass fishing, know that this lake is very easy on the eyes and worth a visit to absorb the scenery. Number 9, Lake Eufaula, Alabama and Georgia. 37,500 acres. Also known as Walter F. George Lake, this Chattahoochee River impoundment easily slides into the top 25 lakes in the South. First off, the fishing is very good right now. The Bassmaster Open held here in March was won with a 2-day total of 48.9, which included a 27.6 limit on day 2. And to add icing on this already delicious largemouth cake, if you head north up the river, you will find a world-class shoal bass fishery. The river gave up a new state record last year with an 8-pound, 5-ounce shoalie, shattering a 45-year-old record. Number 8, Lake Sinclair in Georgia, 13,380 acres. It's been a minute since this central Georgia fishery has gotten our attention. When a 27-pound limit is caught, we take notice. This is exactly what happened during an event held here in April as 2614 took second with a big fish at 834. A mid-April Fishers of Men event took 24 pounds to win. This lake was created in 1953 with the damming of the Oconee River, and 70 years later, it has seemed to have hit its stride. Number 7, Lake Toho in Florida. 22,700 acres. This lake remains the crown jewel of the Kissimmee chain of lakes. Take a look at the Florida trophy catch lunkers caught here in the past year, and you'll find 19 entries, with an 11-13 currently wearing the crown. Although data doesn't suggest that Toho is in its prime, there was an event held here in May that was won with a limit just shy of 31 pounds. Most other events being won with limits in the 22-pound range. On top of the giant bass, Toho is just a beautiful lake to visit. Number 6, Jordan Lake in North Carolina, 14,000 acres. This jewel of the Tar Heel State continues to impress. An event held here in February took almost 31 pounds to claim the top spot. Although this was a standout event on this pristine fishery, an event in March was won with 23.91 pounds. Between the two events, 7 fish topping 7 pounds were weighed, with the biggest pushing the scales to 8.26. Number 5, Lake Gunnersville, Alabama, 69,000 acres. The rise of the Big G continues. Although the lake continues to see monumental pressure, it is standing strong, and data shows improvement over last year. A team derby this past March saw 22 limits topping 20 pounds, with the winning team bringing 29.55 to the scales. An invitational held in May took 28.18 to win, with the top 5 teams weighing in more than 25 pounds. So yes, Gunnersville is back. Number 4, Lake Okeechobee in Florida, 730 square miles. The Big O is cranking out big bass. This Goliath of a fishery has cranked out some giant stringers. It was not only epic, but perhaps even historic. Weighing in 29 pounds on one turn, he wouldn't even crack the top 25. The top 20 anglers weighed in over 30 pounds, with the winning weight at 36.82. It showed what is currently swimming in this lake, and you'd be smart to hit it while it's hot. Number 3. Orange Lake in Florida. 12,550 acres. If you were to guess where the biggest bass was caught in the state of Florida this year, you'd be wrong. Unless, of course, you guessed this fishery. Yep, a 14-1 was landed here in April. 3 13s were caught here in February. 17 more over 10 pounds were landed in the past 12 months. The number of truly giant fish swimming in this lake is unrivaled. Oh, and an event held here in February was one with 28.87 pounds, anchored by a 12.59 big fish. Number 2. Fellsmere, Stickmarsh, Kenansville Lake in Florida. 10,000, 6,500, and 2,500 acres. These Sunshine State triplets were some of the best the South had to offer this year. Pressure is affecting the numbers of bass an angler can expect to catch when they visit, but the giants still swim here. Looking at Florida's trophy catch data, 73 were reported from Fellsmere, with an 11.8 being the biggest. There is currently a drawdown on Stickmarsh for a habitat enhancement project, so the fishery is a kayak only until the water levels rise. Kenansville boasted 7 trophy catch lungers, with a monster 13.10 leading the pack. Number 1. Lake Murray, South Carolina. 50,000 acres. There is a new king of the Palmetto State, and this fishery should be number 1 on your bucket list for angling the southern portion of our great nation. We saw hints last year when every tournament we researched took a little more than 20 pounds to win. This year, however, 20 pounds will do little for your goal to reach the gold medal podium. This lake is called the Jewel of the South, and rightly so, as it currently wears the crown in this region. This fishery is beautiful, full of fish, and has some giants swimming around to boot. Many elite series anglers believe it is the best lake in the country right now, and they are not too far off.